This is Business Decoded podcast with Ronnie Spellman. An informal chats with top business moguls as they share their stories of failure and success in a fun and relaxed way. Get entertained, educated, and unlock the secrets to success.
Welcome to Business Decoded with Ronnie Spellman. I am excited about today's guest. This is a slightly different podcast than normal because we have a lot of business owners and business leaders, and we have someone really special. But I was reading an article recently about millennials and Gen Z, and there is a term spiraling that I had no clue, so I'm researching this term to understand what it meant. And it seems like every generation, when they look at the generation coming behind, might think that they're not quite ready to get into the workforce and become the next leader. And so I am excited to welcome who I call a future CEO. She's a current college student and intern with this program for this summer, Miss Gabriela Spellman.
Hi, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, welcome to the program. And you've attended a lot of functions, and you've been here in this podcast, and you've got to hear stories from other senior leaders. And you're doing something that's really amazing. You're a current college student at one of the top 25 universities in the country, one of the top 5 public colleges in the country. You're studying biomedical engineering at the university. And then beyond that, which I'd love to talk to you more about, you are a leader in your own right based on some of what you've done. And you've achieved a lot of success starting at a young age. So just to tell our listener, you were a gymnast starting at the age of 2.
Yes.
You became state champion in one state, and then you moved to another state and became state champion again in a totally different state. And now you're getting into this just amazing next level part of your career, which I hope to talk about, from your internships this summer to some of your work. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So I read this article, and they say that your generation, you're part of which generation?
Gen Z.
You're a Gen Zer.
Yes.
I'm getting old. So there are a couple of generations. There's a silent generation from 1928 to 1945, the baby boomers from the 1946 to 1964, Generation X from 1965 to 1980, the millennials, which just preceded you from 1981 to 1996, and then Generation Z, yes, 1997 to 2012. So you're Z, and then there's a group coming behind you that they've just given the name Generation Alpha.
Yes, the babies.
Those are the babies. So welcome. It's you've had a really interesting career in life, and you're just a college student. But tell me about your biomedical engineering program and what you're thinking about doing.
Yeah, so I'm studying biomedical engineering, and it's been a fun journey. Again, I'm only going into my second year of college, so still just kind of getting introduced to the field. But I've had so many good experiences kind of across several different industries, which sort of led me to choosing biomedical engineering. And specifically, I got to tour the NICU of a hospital.
Wow.
And I loved seeing the medical side of things, seeing how I can make an impact on people.
And you started young, though. Didn't you have at Oldham University
yes,
in Virginia, you had a medical program. It was
yes,
the
bioelectric program.
And
there.
You were what?
I was
8th grade or something like that?
Yeah, going into my 9th grade year. So I started trying to incorporate my things and incorporate myself into programs like these. So the bioelectric program was a great introduction for me. I got to be in a lab with several of my own peers, as well as, PhD students and actual professors, and sort of learn what that looks like to be in a lab, to learn, high-level chemistry, biology, all of that, and then take that information and, put it into presentations. And I presented that information to, maybe a group of 50 people.
So you led that presentation from Brian.
I did.
And I think you won something.
I did.
You
yes.
won, was it first place for
my group won first place for that presentation. And that was several years ago. But that was sort of my introduction into the science field, the medical field, and learning all of the possibilities with that. And so from there, I've had several other opportunities within the medical sort of atmosphere. And I loved, for a while I did want to go to med school, but learning that I can that med school isn't the only path to be in the healthcare industry was interesting. And so now I've decided to sort of incorporate that with engineering, give a more technical background, and learn how to, incorporate like technology and innovation into the healthcare industry.
But you're meeting some fairly fascinating people. I think you met the founders of Reddit, who are also graduates from your university,
Yes.
which is pretty neat.
Yes.
And then you've been meeting with other people. And then this summer, you had a fairly amazing set of opportunities come your way. One was with an investment firm. What was that like?
So I interned at an investment company this summer for a couple weeks.
In California,
In
right?
California,
Okay.
yes. So I took the trip out there and interned there, and it was an incredible experience because I can't say that I'm super familiar with investment and the corporate world in terms of just kind of dealing with money in general and how it's transported through companies and all of that.
Right.
So that was fantastic. I got to listen from all of the departments within the company, learning how they all engage and cooperate into the company that they are, and learn how that investment world works. And I'd love to incorporate it into my future career.
And they gave you a portfolio. I guess they gave you some phony money to work with, monopoly
Yes.
money, I believe, to work
Monopoly
with.
money, yeah. They gave me essentially $1 million of fake money, and they taught me how to invest it in different companies through stocks and options, and sort of a competition through the internship. And that was a lot of fun. And then also I was given a portfolio of a specific industry, and I spent a week researching that industry and learning everything about the industry through the world of investment, and what the possibilities are for this specific company to invest within this specific area. And then at the end of the week, I presented it to a bunch of analysts, a bunch of senior analysts, and that was great. Yeah.
And you had, if I remember correctly, you had another opportunity before choosing this financial firm to work. You interviewed with the owner of a company in Texas that was a medical investment firm.
Yes.
Which is kind of neat. And then you chose this one in California. But then you also had some additional experiences this summer from a business perspective.
Very busy summer.
You had a very busy summer. So in addition to interning with the investment firm, you also work at a food services catering type company in operations.
Yes.
Tell us about that experience.
Now that also was a whole new experience. And I genuinely had the best time working for this company. And within food service, I was an operations intern for this company. And I got to see the food service industry from a whole new perspective. I was listening to customer inquiries as well as, learning. I learned what a BEO is, a banquet event order. Never heard of that before. And learning just how the whole process works, from customers calling in, and from, they were recommended from their venues,
right,
or just a wedding planner, something along those lines, and then walking them through the whole process, getting a quote and establishing that banquet event order,
right,
and just the whole process. I got to see that step by step.
Now, I think you mentioned to me that one of the customers, of course, you can't mention the name, they were planning a wedding.
Yes.
And the wedding on the food cost only was somewhere between $130,000 to $150,000 just on the food cost.
Just on catering services.
So just the ability to see how that industry works and how you manage the events and generate an income is pretty impressive. And the repeat customers, I think you mentioned.
Yes, and with this specific company, there were a lot of repeat customers, and I got to see it from the nonprofit side, as well as companies. They hosted corporate events, and then this company would cater for them, and a lot of repeat there as well. And then also on the wedding side, the more fun side of things, weddings, baby showers, all of that, and just learning how all of these things are planned, and not even just from a catering perspective, but how these types of events are thought out and coordinated. Yeah.
That's interesting. And there's so much logistics that happens, not only
100%.
from the sales and the order intake, but to the production of the food, packaging it so that it can be delivered, and then that transportation and logistics side. There's just so much. And then I think there's a lot of of materials and supplies, catering dishes, chafing dishes, just the material that's in the distribution facility that has to be coordinated. And so what a learning. In one of our conversations, you mentioned that people assuming you're Generation Z, that you're very technologically proficient, which the generation seems to be. But so much has moved to online.
Yes.
And I think our conversation center, the version of Excel that you used was an online version. And in your operations position, you were having to use the traditional Excel. And so it gave you an opportunity to learn it a different way. Yes,
100%. My generation has grown up with technology. You know, so many of us had phones at a young age, and I think people are now just trying to figure out how to sort of regulate that with children growing up.
Right.
But we were given access at such a young age, and I think going through high school and all, it was almost assumed that we knew how to do a lot of the things. And not to say that a lot of us didn't, but we weren't given any instruction on some of those pieces. And so I've worked on, maybe not Excel specifically, but those types of spreadsheets, but on a very, I would say, low scale, basic input, inputting information. But through this position, this operations intern position, I had to quickly kind of step up my game and learn how to use Excel, because that was, part of my daily routine. I'd go in Excel and, track different profits and with rentals and all of that. But I quickly had to learn how to sort of use that. And it will be useful in sort of everyday life as I enter the workforce.
That's pretty neat. Before I want to talk more about your gymnastics, because there's so much training that happens in it and so many lessons that you learn, and you learn about being committed and persevering through both challenging times and just the dedication that comes out of it. It's like running a business in some ways. But you had your last day at this food services company, and you were describing what they did for you that day.
Yes.
So you describe what happened on your last day as part of your departure.
So, the whole day I had people coming up and saying they enjoyed working with me and all of that. But at the end of the day, I was given a little bouquet of flowers and a cake, and a card that all of the employees signed for me. And then we all kind of did, like when we were kids in our soccer days, they did the little tunnel with our arms, and I kind of ran through it and went out the door. And people were cheering, and it was a wonderful experience. And I think that kind of represented the culture of the company too.
So all the employees stood side by side with the line, and their arms arched, and you ran under the arch of these employees.
Gabby.
That's incredible. And you're right, I haven't seen that since like the soccer days for 4 or 5 years. So that's amazing from a culture standpoint. And I know when we discussed that, your feedback was that it gave you a sense of value. Just
Absolutely.
That small token of appreciation for you meant a lot.
It absolutely did. And I think that's something a lot of companies could and should incorporate, just making their employees feel welcomed and appreciated. The moment I stepped into this company, I genuinely felt welcomed. People would talk to me, and it was just a great experience overall.
And I have sometimes a challenge getting managers and leaders to understand how an engagement of something that seems really small, because it's not like it costs them a lot to make you feel good.
Right.
And sometimes managers just don't understand the importance of saying thank you or we appreciate what you do, and how far that gets them. They think that people just want more money or more bonuses, and that's just not the case. Just saying a quick thank you or showing an appreciation is huge, right? So walk me through your gymnastics career. You started young, so you probably don't have much of a memory of those early days. But at one point, you were I'm using air quotes, you were working in gymnastics at, I think, 9 years old. You started at 7:30 or so in the morning, and you finished at 5:30, 5 days a week, and then you were traveling on weekends.
Yes.
That's more than a full-time job for most people.
It totally is. It was a full-time job to me. I was, like you said, I was in the gym all day long, and it was very intense training. And I don't regret any of it. It was a fantastic experience. It taught me what hard work looks like, what it looks like when I desire something and I work towards my goals, and then I can actually achieve my goals. Standing at the podium with a gold medal at, these competitions, it meant the world. and seeing all that hard work pay off. I mean, gymnastics taught me so many incredible life lessons.
And you were young, but there was such a huge commitment. But you're one of the top 100 for your 100 gymnasts in the country for your age and your level.
Yes.
Which was absolutely incredible from an achievement standpoint. And then you went to the same gym as some of the top gymnasts in the country that were in the Olympics. So Sam Mukalik, I believe, was one of your fellow gymnasts. Kyla Ross, who was an esteemed gymnast, 2012 Olympic team, who's now a coach at a major university's gymnastic team. And some others. I think for a brief period of time, you even went to the same gym as Gabby Douglas in Virginia. So, and then you went to another gym, I think, in North Carolina with a top gymnast. Amazing. Now, what was it like to be in an environment that really facilitated that level of quality? And then they demanded a lot as well, just from an execution perspective.
And that's exactly what it was. It was, these top gymnasts that I was training with, they are top gym. They're Olympians. And so these coaches, first of all, it shows the coaches kind of know what they're doing, but just being in the same company as them, you see how hard they work and all of the lessons that they learn, and they're sort of a mentor figure to you. And then it shows these other gymnasts, working below, a couple levels below, and even, the little toddlers in the gym, just what is possible. And yeah, I mean, it was fantastic, and I've been around so many great people and that have been able to mentor me.
So, and that leads me to something else you did this summer. I'll get back to it, but you were a coach this summer for those young gymnasts. So we'll come back to that in a moment. But from a business perspective, what I found in my career, I've built a lot of recruiting programs across the country. And I've coached young people on building their resume, and a lot of times they don't include the fact that they were a top gymnast or a top baseball player or a top football player or in the band. And for me, it helps if I'm looking at their resume. It helps me to understand the level of work they went through, which translates into how hard they're going to work within an organization. A lot of times they want to take it off their resume.
Yes.
And I've been telling them, no, you've spent a young career, refining those skills, having the ability to get up early and stay committed. Those are what those items and characteristics are what we're looking for in the private sector. So I keep encouraging people, keep it in there. Talk about it in your interview.
Yes.
Because on the other end, entrepreneurs love it.
Absolutely.
What I found some years ago in my recruiting, I often saw Enterprise at a lot of events, Enterprise Rental Car. And they have a great program for recruiting athletes. I think they figured out very successfully how to recruit athletes, volleyball players, basketball players, football players, and bring them into the organization in their manager training program.
Right.
So I encourage people who are athletes and in other activities, not just athletics, but other activities where they dedicate a lot of time, showcase that.
Absolutely. I think it shows a lot about the person when they do showcase that. They show what they've put forward and how what they've achieved in that area, and then also it creates a conversation piece for hiring managers and all, and they love it's a good way to showcase who you are and what you've done.
Absolutely. So tell me about you coaching gymnasts. Now, this is your first time coaching young people?
Yes, and I absolutely loved it. Now, I've worked with children in the past. I volunteered for an equestrian facility and so I got to help disabled children learn how to ride horses, and that was a fantastic experience working with children. But this is my first time coaching children, like genuinely coaching children, and I had the best time. It's a hard job. I'm not gonna lie. There's some difficulties there, but I loved it, and it taught me not only how to just coach gymnastics. Like I'm familiar with gymnastics. I know how that area works, but coaching it is a little bit of a different level. And then it also teaches, a little bit about leadership, how to sort of corral a group behind you and your cause. And that was great.
And the challenges weren't challenges like many would think, it's just having to manage a group of really young kids.
Yes.
And trying to keep their attention and keep them entertained. And that's the complication. So that is just an amazing opportunity for you to get that capability and understanding of how to work with little ones.
Yes, working with them, keeping them motivated, and showing yourself as a leadership, figure, and yeah.
So you get to be on the other side of this now, because these little 4 or 5 years, they look at you and they think you're at least 50 years old.
They do. They think I'm old.
That's pretty neat. And I'll mention this. So you weren't only just a gymnast, but you were in basketball for a few years. You were in soccer, which was really fascinating to hear and learn about. You were in taekwondo, and they wanted you to compete. And then you rode horses as well. So you've done a lot beyond just gymnastics from a sporting perspective.
Right.
And so what's next for you now? You have a few more years to go. And by the way, it just hit me. I was looking at my notes that you even spent time in Guatemala.
I did.
It was a unique program that allowed you to work with some of their medical team. But then also, what were you doing in Guatemala?
Yeah, so that was, again, another amazing experience that I am very fortunate to have had. But it was my first time outside of the U.S.
And you traveled on your own?
I did. I traveled on my own. And I went to Guatemala as a part of this nonprofit organization. And I got to help build stoves for these in these rural communities in Guatemala that helped sort of exhaust the smoke when cooking to the exterior of the house so it doesn't, collect inside, and which helps with, health problems later on. But then I also did get to spend some time in the medical facility that they have and observe, different patient operations. And that was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So just to give a visual description. So these families were in these homes and they cooked using, I believe, wood, right? And it was an open flame inside the home.
Inside the house, yes.
And so you were installing these metal stoves, and they still cook with wood, but inside the stove, and then you built an exhaust pipe. So I hear that you were climbing on roofs to build
I was climbing on roofs, yes.
And how many did you install?
My group did, for the entire week, about 25 or so.
And that's amazing.
Yes. Very busy, long days, but it was
But you
very
were helping
rewarding.
families, though.
I was,
And
yes.
they seemed very grateful, and the people were incredible, from what I recall of your conversation.
No, it was amazing seeing a different culture, and obviously there was a language barrier. I speak a little bit of Spanish, but then there was also a native language that many of them spoke. And so yeah, that was great. They were so appreciative of the work that we did. They'd give us big baskets of fruit and vegetables, just trying to show their appreciation.
That's incredible. And then on your off time, you had an opportunity to visit an active volcano.
Yes, I did.
Oh, gosh. What was that like?
Okay, it was not an active volcano. It was dormant, but I did climb the volcano.
But it was still hot, right?
It was still hot. No, the ground was definitely still hot. We roasted some marshmallows on the volcano. It was amazing.
And then I think last summer you went to Spain.
I did, yes.
What was that like?
Again, another Spanish-speaking country. I went to go visit one of my very close friends, and it was no project there. I just got to spend originally it was supposed to be a week of my time in Spain, and just kind of tour the area and see what Spain is like. And then there were some flight delays, and I ended up having to stay another week on my own and work my way through the city on my own in Spanish.
Yeah, so you found your own hotel, your transportation, you saw a bullfight.
I did see a bullfight. Now that was interesting.
Yeah, so you really got to embrace the culture and the community. And I think that's when I'm looking at your bio, I think that's part of the opportunity. So when we start talking about young people, Gen Zers, gaining life experiences, and then using that to propel their career. It looks like you've had a variety of experiences that are now giving you rich understanding of how the world works in some ways.
Yes, and that's been so beneficial to me. And I think just being in all of these different, I've gotten to intern in several different industries and now gotten to see several different countries, and just seeing what life is like for so many other people has sort of flip my perspective on life and what all it has to offer and what my possibilities are in life.
So what are you looking forward to as you return for your second year? I think you joined an engineering group.
I did, an engineering fraternity, yes.
Yes. What's your outlook for this year? You have your classes set. What kind of classes are you taking as you return?
Now this semester I'll start taking truly specific biomedical engineering classes. I will be taking, computational BME classes like those. I'm just excited to return back to the college atmosphere. It's such a unique experience. You have this, you're almost in a little bubble in college, and it's great. You have your friends, you have just a completely almost different life than before, and you're getting to learn so much more in such a different way.
Right. Now in high schools seem to stop carrying books these days. You had a Chromebook in high school,
Yes,
no
a
books,
Chromebook.
and then they print out some guides. And I think schools they stopped teaching cursive. And
They did. I think I was the last grade for my elementary school that was taught cursive.
That's interesting.
I know.
So do they have books in college?
Kind of. Some of my friends have physical big textbooks. I am not one of those people that had physical textbooks. They were all online, and they still cost me a bunch of money. But yeah, they were all online, and a lot of them were interactive textbooks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as you start to think about life after college, I know you still have a few years. Business. What do you think about business now? And you interned on this program. You've had a chance to meet with some of the top business leaders in the country. What do you think about the business industry?
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, I still have a couple years to figure that out. But I'd like to take sort of my experience in all of these realms, all of these industries, and get a chance to sort of combine it. I'm studying biomedical engineering, and I'd love to sort of stay within that space. Maybe develop some, new medical innovation, but incorporate that into the business world. So I'd love to, officially be an entrepreneur within maybe the BME space, biomedical engineering, and incorporate, an investment, because I just learned about that. That was amazing. Nice. But, we'll see. We'll see where it takes me.
What business advice would you give your fellow Gen Zers?
My fellow Gen Zers? Oh, I would just say go and explore, because Gen Z's relatively young, the oldest being 26, 27. So going out and just exploring, see what your options are, and just take any information that you can, create your own little mind database.
I love it.
And just take that with you wherever you go. Go out and explore, go out and meet people, see what you can do.
Now, I'd love to get into some of your favorites, because I'm still learning Gen Z and millennials. I think I'm still learning them as well. But you'll have your first election year this year.
I will. It's exciting.
I remember my first election year, and it was my civic duty, I thought, to be a participant.
And I agree.
So it looks like this would be your first.
It will be my very first.
Congratulations. So what would you tell all of your Gen Zers who are now of voting age? Just go vote, learn what you can about candidates at the national, local level. Just be a participant. Yeah,
I think that's something I personally think it's really important, because it genuinely does affect you and your daily life, and then all of those around you too. So I think it's important to go out and gain all the knowledge you can and use that as you will.
Wonderful. So in the business sector, there's a person who's become a researcher and expert in understanding the different generations. His name is Jason Dorsey. And I participated in an event where he was speaking to all business leaders and understanding. So the reason this show is important for me, this particular show with you, is businesses need to really understand the employee base that they have, which generations they come from, and what may have influenced how they think and what motivates them, so that they can provide that good work environment. Again, like when you left the catering firm, and how they treated you and how they connected with you. Yes. I think it's so important for businesses to understand.
I think companies are taking a little bit of a shift in how they're having to not necessarily treat their employees, but just a little bit of a different culture as the new generation is coming up.
So let's walk through some of your favorites as we ramp down this particular program. Do you have a favorite food? Or a food type?
I don't know. I love a lot of different foods. I really love Indian food. Some good Mexican food is good.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Would you consider yourself a foodie?
I don't know that I would. Okay. I love a good dinner, love a good little treat, but I don't know that I'd consider myself a foodie.
Now, how do you learn about some of these items? Are you finding food items on social media? Like, what's the way that you figure out different food ideas? I hear that the people look at, TikTok or wherever
I can't say that TikTok isn't a big one. I genuinely get so many different types of information on my TikTok feed, on my For You page. But yeah, I actually do get, and I love cooking too. So I think I get, talking to other people that love to cook, just looking online. Yeah, that's kind of how I get my information.
Any favorite shows? TV?
Favorite shows. My favorite show ever is Criminal Minds. I love it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. You watch Shark Tank any?
I do.
Okay.
Shark Tank a little more online with the podcast. I do love watching Shark Tank though. Yes.
Now I hear that you like roller coaster rides and you've been all over the country.
Roller coasters. Yes, I love the thrill of a good roller coaster, and I've been so fortunate to be able to go kind of all across the country and visit different amusement parks, from several different Six Flags, the Disney's, Knott's Berry Farm, Carowinds, all of those.
And do you have a favorite roller coaster of all those different places?
Favorite? Ooh.
Is that a Gen Z thing? Roller coaster rides or theme parks?
Roller coasters are an every generation thing. I love, at the California Six Flags, there's one ride called X2. That one's great. There's one called the Fury at Carowinds in North Carolina.
Nice.
That one's great. The Joker at the Six Flags in Texas. All of those are good.
Now, what are some of the most, well, I think I was just looking, and I was going to ask you, I'll come back to this question, some of the most interesting people you've met, but then it hit me. I think you've been to a few taping of shows as well. Tell me about that. Of TV shows.
TV
big
shows,
programs.
yes. I went to the taping of Girl Meets World.
Okay.
Several years ago. I got to meet Roan Blanchard, Sabrina Carpenter.
Sabrina Carpenter.
Okay,
now is she a big singer? Or?
She is a big singer now. She's more in the singing now than acting. Yes, I got to meet her. That was great. And I also went to a taping of The Masked Singer. Got to see Nick Cannon, and I sat right behind the judges, watched the whole taping of that. Yeah.
Now, what's big in Texas are the Cowboys. I think you had a chance to spend some time there with Mr. Jerry Jones.
I did meet Jerry Jones. Okay. Wonderful guy, yes.
Very cool. And so as you look forward now, you even had a chance, if I remember correctly, you saw Taylor Swift and Izzo. I think I saw a note on.
Yes, I went to the concert of
How'd
Taylor
you get
Swift.
in? I heard those tickets. The ticket sales were so huge that it broke the system.
Yes. No, it was such a fun experience watching both of those big stars perform.
Now, are you a Swiftie or you just enjoyed the concert? I hear the concert was fantastic.
Swiftie is a strong word. I like some Taylor Swift music, but I don't know that I'd say I'm a Swiftie.
Very cool. So as we look at wrapping up, then what final words of wisdom would you give the business leader who is ramping up a business? You've had some experience, as well as your fellow Gen Z, about how to start preparing for the workforce. A lot of them are already in the workforce, but just your Gabriela Spellman's angle on getting ready for the workforce.
Yes. I mean, man, I'm just entering the workforce, so I don't know that I'm the best person to give advice on that.
But you spent a lot of time refining resumes, and you've had a lot of coaching from teachers on kind of that preparation, and then you've listened to these businesses and heard a lot of feedback and content on how to get ready.
No, and that is totally true. I don't know. I think right now, for me, like the advice that I would give myself maybe a year ago or so.
Sure.
Just going out and seeking knowledge. Right. Learn everything that you can. Go out and have these experiences. Whether, you think you belong in that environment or not, go try to be in that environment. Go learn from other people that maybe know better than you. Go learn about any industry. Go out and learn what you want to do, what you like, how you can incorporate that into your own business. Right. Just
sounds
go
like
seek
you
knowledge.
Can't be afraid of failure, though. Like being able to go up to someone and ask them a question and not being embarrassed to ask a big leader. Like if you were to meet Elon Musk, would you go say hi to him and shake his hand and say, I want to learn what you're doing?
I think I might take a deep breath and hold back for a few minutes. But I would go and say hi to him because, what other opportunities do you have? You get the opportunity to learn from him and even just a simple conversation, right. Put yourself in front of people. Yeah.
Very cool. Gabriela Spellman, thank you for joining us on Business Decoded. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your return to school and congratulations on a successful career that you've had thus far and a great summer it sounds like you've had in learning the business community.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Business Decoded podcast with Ronnie Spellman. Please be sure to subscribe and share and stay tuned for more incredible Business Decoded episodes.